For more than 30 years, Goodfellas has been hailed as one of the greatest films ever made. A masterpiece of crime, adrenaline, and brutal honesty. But what fans don't know is that several scenes were shot and then immediately buried. Not because they were bad, not because they didn't fit the story, but because they revealed too much about the real mob, the real danger behind the film, and the real fear that followed the cast long after the cameras stopped rolling. And now, those hidden scenes are finally resurfacing, along with the truth Hollywood never wanted you to see. Before filming even began, Martin Scorsese was warned. Goodfellas wasn't just another gangster movie. It was a retelling of real crimes committed by real men who were still alive and still dangerous. The studio expected pushback, but no one anticipated what happened during the filming of a now infamous deleted scene. It was a sequence Scorsese designed only for accuracy. A reenactment of an actual confrontation involving members of the Lucchese crime family. The actors were prepared. The set was controlled. But the moment the cameras rolled, something changed. The reenactment felt too real, too specific. Insider lingo, private locations, and facial expressions that only people inside the mafia world would recognize. Rumor has it that one visiting consultant quietly pulled Scorsese aside and whispered, "If you release that, someone's not going to like it." He didn't mean critics. Within days, the production received a message through unofficial channels, urging Scorsese to remove that sequence permanently. Whether the threat was direct or implied, one thing was clear. The studio didn't want trouble, and Scorsese didn't want actors harmed. The scene was cut immediately, sealed, and quietly erased from all official archives. But what happened next intensified the mystery. Crew members later revealed that the energy on set changed overnight. Extras went silent. Actors rehearsed faster. Security doubled. Even De Niro grew more cautious, asking questions he never asked before. Everyone knew that Goodfellas wasn't just a film anymore. It was a line the studio didn't want to cross. Yet one assistant editor, sworn to secrecy, claimed that the deleted scene still exists, stored on an unnamed reel, mislabeled to avoid attention. And if it ever surfaces, it would reveal a moment of raw authenticity that blurs the line between movie fiction and mafia reality. And that wasn't the only scene Scorsese was forced to hide. The public has always believed that Goodfellas was trimmed for violence, but that explanation barely scratches the surface. Among the most controversial lost scenes was one filmed between Joe Pesci and a young extra, a sequence insiders still whisper about with equal parts awe and discomfort. It wasn't just violent, it was too real, too raw, too close to the darkness Henry Hill actually described in his memoir. The scene took place in the aftermath of a beating. Tommy DeVito standing over a man who owed the crew money. Pesci, always method, slipped so deeply into the role that the atmosphere on set turned icy. It wasn't the blood or the language that disturbed people. Goodfellas was full of both. What unsettled everyone was the emotional authenticity. Pesci's eyes, his posture, the slow menace in his voice. It felt less like acting and more like channeling a memory no one wanted to revisit. Even Ray Liotta later said that halfway through the take, he forgot he was watching an actor. "It wasn't Tommy," he said. "It wasn't Joe. It was something else." One crew member fainted. Another walked off set. When Scorsese replayed the footage in the editing room, he knew instantly that the scene could never reach theaters. Not because it glorified violence, but because it exposed the psychological brutality behind it. Word reached the MPAA early. They didn't want it in the final cut. But behind closed doors, Scorsese admitted to a friend that the rating board wasn't the real reason he removed the footage. He feared the scene's intensity might inspire copycats or trigger retaliation from the men whose stories were being retold. That kind of realism wasn't entertainment. It was a warning. The footage was locked away, labeled, stored, and never screened again. But those who saw it claim it's one of the finest performances Pesci ever delivered, precisely because it was too dangerous to show the world. And yet, there was another scene even more controversial. One that didn't involve violence at all, but threatened to expose a deeper truth about the real Henry Hill. Long before Goodfellas reached theaters, Henry Hill, the real man whose life inspired the film, watched an early cut of the footage. Most of it he expected. The violence, the chaos, the betrayals. It was his past, laid bare. But there was one deleted scene that made him physically stand up from his seat. A quiet moment, a confession, a moment of weakness he never wanted the world to see. The scene took place near the end of the film, when Henry's life was unraveling. In it, Ray Liotta delivered a monologue so personal, so eerily close to something Henry had once admitted off-record that Hill panicked. It revealed his fear, not of the FBI, not of prison, not even of the mob, but of losing the respect of the very men he betrayed. The vulnerability in Liotta's performance cut deeper than any violent scene. It exposed Henry's guilt, his insecurity, and the truth that he wasn't the fearless outlaw the world imagined. He was a man terrified of being forgotten. Henry reportedly told Scorsese, "If you keep that in, they'll think I'm weak, and they'll come after me for it." The studio agreed. The scene was removed. Not for ratings, not for pacing, but for Henry's safety. The reel vanished into storage. But those who saw it say it's the most haunting moment Liotta ever filmed. Because for once, Henry Hill wasn't a legend. He was just a man drowning in consequences he could no longer outrun. When archivists finally revisited the old studio vaults, they didn't expect to find anything unusual. But buried beneath mislabeled reels and discarded dailies were the scenes Scorsese once feared to release. Watching them now, decades later, it became clear why they were hidden. They weren't just deleted moments. They were emotional detonations, a level of truth the world wasn't ready for. The mafia threats, Pesci's terrifying realism, Henry Hill's secret confession. Together, they formed a version of Goodfellas too raw, too dangerous, and too honest to ever reach theaters. And for the first time, fans could finally see the film Scorsese almost made, and the dangerous truths he had to bury to protect everyone involved. In the end, the banned Goodfellas scenes weren't just deleted footage. They were warnings, confessions, and the raw fear behind a masterpiece. If uncovering Hollywood's hidden truths fascinates you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories the studio never wanted you to hear.